All righty, good Wednesday to you. Welcome in the Chico Bormann Show here on the Big Play Sports Network. Glad to have you along as we get closer and closer and closer to Sunday afternoon, 1 o'clock. Browns, Bengals for real. The bullets will be flying as the NFL season kicks off for the Browns and the Bengals this Sunday at Cleveland Browns Stadium. The season kicking off for the National Football League tomorrow night. And, wow, boom, we had some news yesterday after the show out in Kansas City and involving Cleveland native, Cleveland Heights grad, Travis Kelce, who went down with they're calling it a hyperextended knee. They're saying that his ACL is intact, which is good, but
I also saw bone bruise included in that.
Yeah.
Which bone bruises are pretty painful.
Well, if it's a bone bruise, then they're happy because they can. I mean, that's as long structurally they want the knee to be intact.
The ACL is intact.
That is what they're saying. They believe it is. They don't know for sure. We will hopefully get an update on this. My buddy Carrington Harrison, out in Kansas City, 6:10 a.m., hosts Afternoon Drive out there. We're going to talk to him at 11:40 this morning and get an update on Kelce and. You know, they still have the Chris Jones thing going on. Now, this is what happens. Like when you've established a culture, I mean, yeah, you don't lose a guy like Travis Kelce 2 days before the season opener and just, happy-go-lucky, no big deal, especially as dependent as they are on him. But I do think that, you look at that offense and you look at Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, but he's relying pretty heavily on 87, as anyone would. So, I don't know. We'll see. They got the Lions tomorrow. We got that to talk about with Carrington. Obviously, Chris Jones, what's going to happen with him, big part of the defense. Ironically enough, it was Kelce that reached out over the last week or at least made it public that, hey, Chris, we need you badly. Guys usually stay out of that stuff because it's business and it's their money, and I don't think it was Kelce, being intrusive or anything. I think it was just letting him know, hey, big dog, we need you a lot if we're going to entertain ideas about repeating and all of that good stuff. But, all right, we will talk to Carrington Harrison at 11:40 this morning, so in about 40 minutes or so. Coming up at 12:10, it's Wednesday. We'll go around the Major League Baseball diamond. Didn't this feel like going into this Twins series and after the acquisition, and nobody should have gotten too excited about Giolito and Moore and Lopez, but it kind of felt like, okay, here's the stretch run. The Guardians are going to make some kind, and they have just nothing. 20-6 followed by 8-3, and it's just, they're done. I mean, they're done. They're out of gas. They're, you can say that, oh well, win one for the Gip. Those are all nice Hollywood headlines. And yes, I think that they want to win. They want to win for themselves. They want to win for Terry Francona if indeed he's done after the season, and I think he is. Sometimes it's just the rotation is not good without those guys, and now you've got the young guys coming up on those innings limits that we all talked about that everybody thought was fake but are actually real. And Lucas Giolito comes in, and it's Lucas Giolito. Yeah, there's a reason why. You realize he's given up 8 runs in an inning 3 times this season with 3 different teams. the White Sox, the Angels, and the Guardians. But the Guardians just kind of look like that's it, stick a fork in them. We thought this might be a series where at home, they make – I don't want to say some sort of a run, but they put a dent. It started at 5, and you thought you could make a dent. Now it's 7 games back, and obviously we know they got to win the division to get in. Yes, Bone.
Did you see Bybee post game?
Did not. No.
Oh, he was all choked up. You could tell he was trying to hold back tears. It was very emotional. I'm guessing they felt the same thing that you're expressing right now, Chico. Like that's it. This was the wake up call that the season's probably over. Bybee was upset with. He said it. I mean, honestly, he sounded so disheveled that I was wondering if maybe there was more going on in his life that had him so upset. But I'm wondering if just the whole experience of being with Tito and realizing that this might be his last season with Tito and all of that. I think the culmination of everything can be really emotional, especially when you lose like that. He felt like I'm sure to some extent he felt like he let the team down, even though he didn't. And he's had a spectacular season.
I mean, with that, yeah.
But these guys, they're competitors and they're harsh on themselves a lot of times in these situations.
I think with Bybee, it's interesting because we've talked about this many times. Without Tanner Bybee, they wouldn't have even entered ideas of going into September with any kind of a shot. I mean, I think what it comes down to sometimes it's just you put everything out there for an entire season, fair or unfair. It was out of necessity. When those injuries happened and just wiped out the rotation, I remember saying at the time, in the past with the Guardians, what they would do is, you had a guy like Tanner Bybee and you would bring him along slowly. You'd bring him up and he would, insert into the back end of the rotation. He didn't have that luxury this year because Bieber was gone and McKenzie was gone. McKenzie was gone before the season. And then, Zach McAllister is just, he didn't know what the hell was going on. Or Zach McAllister. Zach Plesac didn't know what was going on. So
Zach McAllister, man, that's the player I forgot about.
Easy Mac, as they used to call him.
Really? I never heard that nickname. That's amazing.
We could have used Easy Mac back then, but or now, but no. So no McAllister, no Plesac, no Zach of any kind, really. It's been a tough go, and I think for Bybee, when you're a young guy. You put everything you have into the game. Certainly last night, I didn't see the interview you're talking about. Your interpretation might be different from mine, but if you say that it looked like
I'll have to play it for. If you want, I could pull it up. I saw it was on Twitter.
Yeah. I'd love to hear it.
I'll track it down.
But anyway, Guardians. I'd love to say, we're all excited. They play the Twins today at 105, 110, but they're done. They're done. That simple. We'll talk to Booney about that. Scherzer and Verlander tonight. Also, I want to ask him, get his thoughts, because obviously the Guardians, it would appear, are going to be in the market for a new manager. The do's and don'ts of any manager and some of the guys. I know Booney to this day loves Lou Piniella, and he played for Lou in Seattle, but we'll get his thoughts on all of that. All right, it's here. It's Wednesday. Brown, yes, Boom.
If you want to hear that Bybee cut, I've tracked it down.
Okay, go ahead and play it. Yeah, go ahead and play it if you can. If you got it.
Welcome in. How did you feel? Did you have it, and how did you feel about it?
Not really. It was a hard day, kind of all around. I did fight, but like I said, all around pretty tough.
How did you get through the 5 innings, though? How did you fall through it in your mind?
Just trying to be gritty, I guess. Nothing particular was good. Nothing, a lot of stuff was not where it needed to be. But, got through 5 somehow.
Frustrating for you guys just to be so close, but not be able to kind of finish things off against this team.
Yeah, definitely. Good team for sure. But, we've shown that we can beat them. We've shown that we can compete with them. So,
yeah. And
he sounded very emotional.
Yeah. Now, did you see the video of it?
Yeah.
So it looked okay.
He looks like he's
okay. No, it's good. You know what? Hey, good for some guys. Let's be honest about it. You get to September, some guys, and I don't think it's prominent in this clubhouse because that's the culture has played a big role in their success over the years. Certainly with Tito, but across baseball, there are guys right now they can give a damn. They're planning. They've got their tee times all mapped out. They've got vacations planned. And that's part of it. But Booney says it all the time, you got to be professional. There's a guy in Tanner Bybee, as young as he is, that is basically saying, I put everything I have into this. And feeling like this series, we all knew it. It wasn't, I don't think it was any big secret, right? You went into this series and they were still going to have a pretty steep hill to climb being 5 games back. But I think there was a lot of momentum being built, and there was a lot of talk about, well, hey, if they can put a dent in this right now, how we doing, bud? Good? All right. If they can put a big dent in this, then, who knows? Who knows? And sure enough, they got to this series and then just didn't quite work out. And, Tanner Bybee, I think that's Tanner Bybee wearing his heart on his sleeve. That's Tanner Bybee, saying, God, we thought this series was going to be so much better, go so much better, and it hasn't, and that's that. So we shall see. Wrap up the series this afternoon. All right, Browns back on the practice field today. Terry Pluto, who joined us on yesterday's show, kind of emphasized, and no team does really give you any kind of insight in this, but the Browns will not. Maybe Denzel Ward is ready to go. Maybe he's not ready to go. We just don't know. And with head injuries, they are extra cautious. I will say this, that, he, as Terry pointed out, he might be ready to go, and they're just not saying anything. But I would guess with concussion protocol and with the way this thing goes these days, like, it is a process. You're ramping it up, and there are stages, 1, 2, 3, and he has to pass all of that. The idea that this is his 4th documented concussion, the idea that it's Cincinnati on Sunday, I mean, all of that is playing a huge role in this. I mentioned this yesterday, and I think it's worth repeating and throwing it out there for you folks. Would Denzel Ward's availability sway you in picking for or against the Browns on Sunday? Like, is it? I think it's that big, and I don't think it's a case where you say, oh, well, you don't believe in the Browns, then you're not. He's a big piece. I mean, you've got 2 guys in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins that are a handful. Certainly Chase is, he's one of one. Like, it's a lot of people say Justin Jefferson is the best, and that's fine. But if he is the best, Jamar Chase is right on his heels. Joe Burrow, by all indications, we're tracking down our buddy James Rapine from down in Cincinnati for later in the week. But looks like Joe Burrow had a great day of practice on Monday, is feeling good. So my bold prediction that he would miss week 1 is not going to come to fruition, which, you know what? I'm kind of glad. I want, and I know we debate this all the time, like, no, I want Cincinnati to be without Burrow or screw them. I want their best. I want Burrow. I want, if this is really a playoff team, and then it starts Sunday, it starts at Cleveland Browns Stadium, it starts at 1 o'clock, and you'd like it to start, I would anyway, with Joe Burrow under center. And I understand those that say, well, don't you want, if your chances are better winning without him? Yeah, I understand that. At the end of the season, I'm not going to go back and go, the Browns just missed the playoffs. If Joe Burrow misses that game, they probably would have won and gotten in, so we'll put him in anyway. It doesn't work that way. But, I'm so hyped up. I'm really, really hyped up for this season, and I think, for good reason. The optimism in certain years has not been warranted. This year, it absolutely is. This year, it not only is warranted, it's there, and it's there. And if it doesn't come to fruition, and if things don't play out the way that we all think they should, or we all want them to play out, and what is that? Is that playoffs or bust? I can't say that. Because, again, if they're 10-7, if this is a 10-win team and they don't get in because, well, the AFC, including their own division, is just ridiculously tough, but they win 10 games, they're going in the right direction, they played – every game they played pretty well in. They had some moments, but for the most part, it was cleaned up. It was drama-free. We didn't have 12 men in the huddle after timeouts. The BS, the stuff that we're used to happening here in Cleveland is no longer. If that doesn't happen and they win 10 games, then, I can't say that Kevin Stefanski's job's on the line. I don't know. But I do know that, it is a very, very, very tough schedule. And, you're going to need your best guys out there. Denzel Ward right out of the gate. Like we said, you got Baltimore, or you got Cincinnati, you've got Pittsburgh, you've got Tennessee, you've got Baltimore. But certainly week 1 with Denzel Ward. So, Bohm, I'll put you on the spot. Would Denzel Ward being available, let's hypothetically say he is out and that we don't have any information on that. But let's just, for argument's sake, Denzel Ward is out and will not play Sunday. Are you picking for or against the Browns to win?
I think it is a really good question, Chico, because obviously, Denzel Ward has been one of the standout dominators in this Cleveland-Cincinnati series in his young career. With that said, I don't think that he moves the dial for me enough in terms of impact and who you have behind him and all of that. I think it's definitely a huge impact, and you're probably going to need more points because Ward is not going to be out there. So
you're
on the
hedging.
field.
Basically, you're saying that. I mean, and your heart is there. I mean, you do have a hard time being objective, but you do think the Browns are the better team even without Denzel Ward and will win Sunday even if they're out.
It's hard for me to say they're the better team overall because obviously you look at the pedigree of the Bengals in recent history and what Joe Burrow has been able to accomplish. Meanwhile, the Browns have more questions that need to be answered. But I definitely think they can win this game just based on past history. They've shown.
Well, they can. Push comes to shove.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm hoping the Browns will win this one, and I believe they can.
Okay. I think it is a very interesting question, and would love to hear from you on it. 216-626-7901. Also on Twitter at Chico Show CLE. You can stream the show on YouTube. You can also, wherever you get your podcast, download the show, The Chico Bormann Show, iTunes, everywhere, and chime in on social media at Big Play Chico and at Chico Show CLE. But I would say this. If it's any other team, I don't want to say any other team, but if you're missing Denzel Ward, and let's throw out the Tennessee Titans, right? Now, DeAndre Hopkins is aboard there, and they've got Treylon Burks. If this is Tennessee and Denzel Ward is out, I mean, it's still a big loss because this guy's an all-pro when healthy and all of that sort of thing. But DeAndre Hopkins and Treylon Burks, despite what fanboy Nick thinks, are not Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And obviously that's not any kind of revelation, but the point is, yes, the Browns are deep at corner. And, I mean, the idea of Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, and Martin Emerson Jr., I'm not going to sit here and tell you I've gone through all 32 rosters and the 3 deep and looked at their nickel corner. But I would put that trio, when healthy, against any trio in the NFL. I mean, Ward is already there. It's staying on the field. Newsome is bona fide, good, great, could take another jump and maybe get to that level. And then Martin Emerson has been really exactly what he was coming out of the draft. He wasn't necessarily flashy. He was a guy that was very physical. He's very long. He got called for a lot of stuff in college, but he is a hard-nosed player, and he's going to get physical with you, and he demonstrated that his rookie year, and he's another guy that you love. So I'll put those 3 against anybody. I just think it's the one game on the schedule and maybe the one team on the schedule that you say, damn, the Chargers with Keenan Allen, with Mike Williams, nice duo, but nobody touches Higgins and Chase. And so it is really tough. And to your point about, and I think you raise a good point, Bohm, that if they're going to win, not that it's any big surprise, but yeah, Deshaun Watson, the offense is going to have to come out clicking, and that's a very underrated Cincinnati defense under Lou Anarumo. We know that. Will they come out clicking right out of the gate? That's a big question mark. Will they have to be if Joe Burrow and company is going to put up some fireworks? Is going to, if they put up 30, then there's no question that, that offense led by Deshaun Watson and Nick Chubb, but Deshaun Watson, they're going to need to go toe-to-toe. Can they do that? Do you have confidence that they can do that right out of the gate week 1?
Yeah, Chico, I think it's unreasonable to expect this team to just come out in midseason form. And now maybe they do come out hitting on all cylinders, but this team that we see coming out of those gates in week 1 is not going to be the same team in week 9 or 10. I think that we're going to have a lot of revelations over that time, and either way, I'm also expecting it's a very similar instance for Cincinnati, so maybe the stakes are kind of evened in that point. I mean, Joey B's been missing a lot of practices because of the injury, and he's just getting back.
Joey B.
Yeah.
Wow.
You've never heard anyone refer to him as that?
I mean, not like Cleveland media, but that's okay. I mean, you want to call him? Is this the Ohio State? I've heard Joey B. Okay. You got a man crush on him too, or?
I have much admiration and respect for Mr. Burrow.
That's called a man crush. All right, so Joey B, as Bohm refers to him. Joey B will be out in the field, we think.
Will Brennan?
I would say that as far as what does that have to do with anything?
You said Joey B will be.
Okay, thanks, Bohm. I think with Deshaun Watson, I would say that yes, when and it's easy to say that about any quarterback, but I think Deshaun in particular, I think it's unfair, although Deshaun Watson said it. I mean, Terry Pluto said it yesterday on the show. Did Deshaun Watson need to come out and say, you're going to see some fireworks on Sunday? Like, he probably didn't need to say it. Now, I know it's coming from a place of confidence, but there's a really good possibility that he has to build it up, and then, by week 8, 9, 10, the latter half of the season, this offense is cooking. Deshaun Watson is in old form, hopefully 2020 form. But I still think there's that sliver of doubt to start the season that is there still a little bit of rust. The one thing that I don't like last year, and this is why I was so adamant when people would say that, Deshaun Watson's going to step on the field after 700 days off and just, light it up. When you miss that much time and you've been away from the game for that long, I don't care how talented you are, the speed of the game is just something that you've got to get used to. And especially at that position, like you can't, you're trying to digest the offense and get used to the speed, not only on your own team, just everything happened there, but on the other side of the ball where they're gunning for you. I don't think that's going to be a huge issue, but I do think, like anything else, okay, what are we going to see out of Amari Cooper out of the gate? What are we going to see out of Elijah Moore and DPJ? During the preseason, and I've got no problem with this, we saw the offense was as vanilla could be. I'm fine with that. Don't show anything. But if Kevin Stefanski, and I think it's reasonable to believe and expect the Browns to really open it up on Sunday afternoon offensively, if they're going to be taking shots, is that chemistry going to be there? I mean, obviously, I don't have to tell anybody. The further you go down the field, the degree of difficulty goes up. They've got the guys capable of doing that, both quarterback and wide receiver. As far as the weapons, they've got them. But will it be there week 1? Will it have to be there week 1 if they're going to beat Cincinnati? And that right now is the big question mark, which won't be answered until Sunday at 1 o'clock.
Chico, you mentioned how Stefanski kept it very vanilla during the preseason, and I agree, but I think there were some times where it felt like he wanted to put something on tape for other teams to look at, like putting Elijah Moore in the backfield.
When did he do that in preseason?
He did that in the first game, like right off the rip. I want to say first drive.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just curious what sort of ingenuitive tactics Kevin Stefanski has in mind with that.
In terms of the passing game is what I'm referring to. Like, I mean,
it's still a unique
a lot of the passing game was underneath. They didn't go down the field, and that's where it's going to be a huge change and a huge difference, we think. But again, will that happen right out of the gate? I mean, yeah, you're going to see formations where Elijah Moore. I mean, we already talked about it. They're going to be probably empty quite a bit. They're going to be Deshaun Watson is primarily out of the shotgun. Nick Chubb, he said it's easier for him when he's under center, but he's fine running out of any formation. But there are going to be times where he's going to be lined up in the slot. He's going to be lined up out wide. He's going to be all over the formation, just like Elijah Moore is going to be all over the formation. I think now this is where Kevin Stefanski, and it's interesting. It's that delicate balance between, and I don't have full confidence that Kevin is there yet, because and it's not a matter of he has one of the most creative offensive minds, I think, in the game. But at times you can overdo it. At times you can overthink it. Now he's got all the weapons. Like, it was easy to say, oh, last year and years past, you've got this guy. But now, like, Elijah Moore's all over the formation. Nick Chubb's going to be all over the formation. David Njoku has been uncoverable. Granted, it's training camp, it's preseason, but there's a reason he got an extension. He is as raw and as physically gifted as a tight end there is out there. I mean, really, just in terms of athletic ability. Marquise Goodwin, who will play. We didn't know it was touch and go for a while with the blood clots. What does he do? Go from point A to point B and run as fast as you possibly can. So now all of a sudden the pressure is on defenses. That's what's fun. Because in years past, last year, Baker years, like, we always wanted to believe the pressure was on the defense because you had Nick Chubb, or because you had, Odell Beckham Jr., or you had, now Amari Cooper. The realization is, and Jacoby Brissett played his ass off, but the realization is, if a defense is gonna be honest and is going to be kept honest on the field, they've got to believe that you can take the top off of them. And if they don't, and the closer they're creeping towards the line of scrimmage, the options just get less and less and less. I think Kevin Stefanski knows right now, we all know, it's no secret, that playbook is as wide as he wants it. But at the same time, let's not get too cute. Let's not forget about a guy like – these are great problems to have. Like, wow, you've got so many weapons. Let's make sure whenever one of your issues going into the season – or presumed issues, I should say. That's very, that's too big of an assumption for me to make early on. One of the presumed problems that you may have is keeping all the mouths fed, then you're in good shape. You've done a pretty good job drafting, free agency, all of that sort of thing. So, they've been very vanilla offensively, and that's fine. They've played it very close to the vest, and that's fine. How drastic is that change going to be come Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock? That is a big question mark. So we continue to talk. Again, Browns-Bengals, still awaiting word on injuries, still awaiting word they'll be on the practice field today. If Deshaun Watson does go, could it be a game-time decision? Yes, but I think right now, for me, that's the number one thing I'm looking at.
You mean Denzel Ward?
What did I say? Deshaun
Watson?
Yeah, Denzel Ward.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so Watson's not hurt.
Yeah, Denzel Ward. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Is Denzel Ward going to be – yeah, I want to make sure I got that right. Denzel Ward coming out of concussion protocol, is he going to be okay? Now, as Bohm says, they've gone down the field vertical, and the playbook's been wide open in the preseason. We'll see if that's the case, and if they stick with that. But all the gadget plays and all that stuff. But no, Denzel Ward, his availability today, like, that's the number one thing. I'm not focused on anything else. Where is Denzel Ward today? Where is he tomorrow? By Friday, what are we looking at? I think it's safe to say Joe Burrow, and again, everybody's back on the practice field today. Joe Burrow had a great day on Monday. They were off yesterday, back on the practice field today. He's going to be out there. So we shall see. We got college football to talk about as well. Columbus, I was talking to somebody yesterday, one of my former roommates, and they are, and I think it's fair. I mean, it's early, but this is what these people wait for 365 days a year is Ohio State football. This is what they're waiting for. And they expect big things. And I think there are two things. Well, one thing I know in particular was a hot topic yesterday, and I'm actually glad it was. And it wasn't Kyle McCord. It was the offensive line not being physical. Like that, because that's like 2 years in a row now. Like short yardage situation. Now, I say 2 years, a year in a game. But that's one of those things where you can talk about position players being down or skill guys. You're down in an area after a year or two or whatever. But that should just be a mindset up front. And I feel like the Buckeyes haven't had that mindset in a few years now, where you just line up and we're going to put a hat on you, we're going to move you, and we're going to take your soul from you. They just haven't had that. And I don't know if that's scheme driven. I don't know if that's mindset, coach. I don't know what it is. But I just know it wasn't there in week one. And normally you just blow it off and say, well, it's one game. Who cares? I mean, it's Indiana. No big deal. But I also think that when it's something that carries over from last year, it's a big deal. It's the same with the Browns. We've talked about, if they come out and they're making a lot of silly penalties and they're offsides and they're 12 men on the field, we're going to feel like, oh, no, here we go again. And that's understandable. That's understandable. Now, if the Buckeyes can't take care of business against Youngstown State, then there's going to be a lot of people, not just in Columbus, but around Columbus, around the country. They're going to be very upset. But we'll talk to Bill Landis about that coming up on Friday. We got Pick 6. It's dawning on me finally with all that's going on. I mean, tomorrow on the show, we're going to be doing fantasy stardom and sit-em with EK. Like, we're there. We're here. Tomorrow night, there's going to be a lot of people, not that it's all fantasy driven, but it's a big deal. There's a lot of folks who are going to be glued into that game for no other reason than they've got a lot of fantasy juice going. They got Mahomes. If you have Kelce, on the Lions even, Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Seeing a lot of hype for Jahmyr Gibbs, Chico.
Jahmyr Gibbs, yeah. Jahmyr Gibbs, the receiver.
Your boy Laporta.
Sam Laporta, the tight end, yes.
Yeah. No relation to Matt, as far as we know.
Thank you, Bo. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams. I wonder about the Lions. Here's what I'll say about the Lions. They seem to be the team that I think everybody believes is right there because of what happened last year, and they beat Green Bay. I mean, they've taken giant steps, but what we don't know is, are they ready to play Kansas City week one, like the defending champs? Now, they're going to be greatly helped if Travis Kelce is not playing, and I don't think he is going to play, so that's a big assist. But like Detroit's offense, it's easy to look at Detroit's offense and say, man, they're going to light it up. But like Jamison Williams, outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown, who are their deep threats? I mean, they're talking about Jahmyr Gibbs being lined up as like a deep threat. And he's that dude is a rocket. Coming out of Alabama, rookie, he's got great speed. But I just wonder if the Lions, are they going to have, they kind of just did a wholesale change in the backfield. No DeAndre Swift. And DeAndre Swift was disappointing a lot of guys. So I understood that move. But the bottom line is you still have, now David Montgomery comes in. Now you have Jahmyr Gibbs. You're not sure where to play him. And then outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to draw a ton of attention. Who are the threats for Jared Goff? A lot of them, you've got some guys missing there. So it's going to be, like I said, we'll have EK tomorrow with fantasy stardom and sit-em, but there's going to be a lot of fantasy juice on the line tomorrow, and just juice, period, when the Chiefs battle the Lions. Speaking of the Chiefs, we're going to take a quick time out. When we come back, Carrington Harrison, afternoon drive host in Kansas City. What is the latest on Travis Kelce? What is the latest on Chris Jones? And the Chiefs are ready to open up the 2023 campaign against the Lions. We'll talk to Carrington Harrison about that and much more when we come back. The Chico Bormann Show continues right here on the Big Play Sports Network. Alrighty, welcome back. Chico Bormann Show here on the Big Play Sports Network as we are waiting for Carrington Harrison out in Kansas City, 6:10 a.m., host of Afternoon Drive out there. Kansas City with some – I mean, I know you don't panic when you're Kansas City, and certainly it's game 1 of 17 and you're the reigning champs, but – I mean, there's two guys that you basically panic when you hear 2 days before the season starts they go down. One, obviously, is Patrick Mahomes, and the second, obviously, is Travis Kelce. Is Chris Jones just as important on the defensive side of the ball? Yes. But when you talk about that connection, like Mahomes and Kelce, it's just become like salt and pepper, peanut butter and jelly. Mahomes and Kelce. Like, it's one thing to – okay, you've had to do without for a while, but this just happened yesterday where he hyperextended his knee. So I'm going to reach out live on the air because I forget that Carrington and Kansas City, is that Mountain Time or Central Time, Bone?
Stand by.
I thought you meant stand by because he's ready.
Apologies for leading you astray. Central Time.
Central Time. So that'd be 1 hour behind us.
Yeah.
I think I did put, I just checked the text message. I always forget that. And I've been on his show too, where like I've been thinking like, Eastern Time and it gets kind of, a little hairy there, but we should be okay. So what did you, I know you're looking at the comments. D, who is it, Bohm?
D. Solsky says, how can a 5-year player still be raw? Who's developing these players?
Well, I mean, raw in terms of when he came out of college and put it this way, has David Njoku realized his full potential? No. Was he raw coming out of college? Absolutely. That's where that comes from. But yeah, I think they're developing him just fine, but hopefully this is the year that he takes that next step. All right. Are we is he ready or
He's screening in.
He's screening it. So he's talking to AI.
Yeah, Allen Iverson is talking to your boy Carrington.
And it looks like Allen Iverson's gotten a little bit better. The AI, the automated system has gotten much better at translating what callers, in this case, Carrington Harrison, says. I mean, the name is spelled out perfectly. Football.
Well, it says foosball.
Oh, I didn't see the yes there.
We'll have to figure it out.
Well, maybe
if Allen Iverson interpreted it correctly.
Maybe Carrington does want to talk about foosball. He's a very, let's bring him in right now. Carrington Harrison, Afternoon Drive, 610 in KC. This is a guy that is very, very well-rounded. He's directed some small films, produced some small films, so maybe he does want to come on and talk foosball, as the automated system says. Carrington Harrison is our guest from out in Kansas City, where they are waiting to take on the Detroit Lions tomorrow evening, and the big news out of Kansas City yesterday, which we'll get to in just a moment, involving Travis Kelce. Mr. Harrison, how you doing, buddy?
Chico, how's it going? I'm not going to lie, it startled me a little bit. So when I called, I was expecting to talk to a person, and then they were like, say your name and what you want to talk about. And I was like, foosball. So that's what happened.
Well, what's funny is, like I have to remind people from my previous gig, like there was always somebody to call the guest and get them set up. And now with the automated system, and sometimes it'll say Carrington Harrison, it'll come back Derek Smith, and he wants to talk about the Indians rotation somehow, or the Guardians rotation. That's like, you never know, but it's getting better. AI, Allen Iverson, is getting better with the call screening business, which is a good thing. All right, so set the stage for us, buddy. This happened yesterday. I actually had just gotten off the air, and I saw this hit about Travis Kelce, and at first you're like, okay, maybe they're making too big of a deal about it. But then hyperextension, what's the latest on Cleveland native, pride of Cleveland Heights High School, Travis Kelce?
So to maybe paint the picture just a little bit, the Chiefs are running a goal line drill. It doesn't sound like he was hitting the knee. It just sounds like he made a catch, came down, and landed very awkwardly on his knee. And it's funny you say you were getting off the air. It was probably 30 minutes before I got on the air, so there was a lot of confusion about what was going on with Travis Kelce. And then all of the information that we got, I would say, over the next 4 hours was pretty positive. We saw that he did not tear his ACL. We saw that everything structurally was intact. And right now with the swelling issue, I got a text earlier today that more and more of the news just tends to be positive around Travis Kelce. I would err on the side of caution as opposed to the opposite when it comes to Travis Kelce. We're talking about a week 1 game against an NFC opponent. That's not a scenario in which I'm willing to push it. It'd be one thing if you were playing the Bengals to open up the season. You think that tiebreaker is going to be important, or playing Buffalo, or playing one of those kind of teams. You're playing the Lions. I don't mean any disrespect towards the Lions, but losing to the Lions does not alter the Chiefs' goal. It doesn't affect their ability to win the division, doesn't affect their ability to be the 1 seed in the AFC, given the games that they have down the line. So if you're telling me that Kelce's going to be 85%, I'd rather him just not play.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I wonder if the fans, kind of feel the same way. And I think now, it's easy to say, well, you know what? We think we can still beat the Lions, right out of the gate without them. They probably should and will, but if they don't, you're going to get the naysayers. But I agree with you. If this is it's kind of like what the Browns are facing right now. With the Bengals, you mentioned Cincinnati. They've got them Sunday at 1. Denzel Ward's in concussion protocol. And, if this is, say, Tennessee to open up the season and it's not Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, well, okay, Greg Newsome, Martin Emerson Jr., they can maybe hold down the fort. Just make sure with Denzel Ward that he's going to be healthy, but you don't really have that luxury coming out of the gate. Here, with you guys looking at the big picture, and why wouldn't you if you're in Kansas City, as much as you want 87 to play, it just doesn't make much sense. How is what has camp been like for Kansas City coming off? I mean, it's a long season when obviously, and that's a good problem to have. You win the Super Bowl, go to the Super Bowl. And I think Mahomes even talked about it. Like, it is a quick turnaround. How has camp been, and what's kind of been the mood around there?
It's funny. I actually asked this question yesterday of, am I just too close to the scenario? Because, I would say a lot of bad things have happened to the Chiefs. Like you mentioned Travis Kelce. I'm sure you're going to ask me about Chris Jones at some point.
Yep.
Their number 1 running back, Isaiah Pacheco, didn't really participate in training camp because he's injured. Their number 1 corner, L'Jarius Sneed, he's banged up. Kadarius Toney, a lot of Chiefs fans were optimistic about him. He got hurt on the first drill. Like, that is not hyperbole. The very first drill of training camp, he twisted his knee and missed the entire training camp. Like, it has been more bad news than good news when it comes to the Chiefs. But I think what's different about this, and maybe this is just putting too much stock into a player, everything just seems to work for Patrick Mahomes. Like, he has started 79 regular season games in his NFL career. They've won 63 of them. Like, if you were telling me I need to be on the other side, that just doesn't seem like a really good bet for me. So I understand why people would put the Chiefs on upset alert. I understand why the line is dropping. It was 7 at the very beginning of the week. You can get it at 4.5 right now. So Travis Kelce has moved the line almost 3 points over the last 24 hours. But I've just seen Patrick Mahomes figure it out. And I know you're not going to have Tyreek Hill, obviously. You're not going to have Kareem Hunt. You're not going to have Travis Kelce. He's going to be going out there with MVS and Sky Moore and Richie James. And we still think he's going to throw for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and the Chiefs are going to win. That's just because he's the best quarterback that we maybe ever seen.
Yeah, and that's just it. I was just about to say, it would be in years past, we always said, you never bet against Tom Brady. To go back a ways, when I was growing up, you never bet against Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods. And now he's in that conversation. Like, or if you're brazen enough to bet against Patrick Mahomes, and yes, Kelce is a huge loss, then God bless you. All right, let's go over to the defensive side of the ball quickly. Chris Jones wants paid. He certainly deserves to get paid. Kansas City, as you and I have discussed many times, whether it be Tyreek Hill or somebody else, they are very set in their ways and how they're going to go about doing things. Where does it stand right now with Chris Jones and, ironically, Travis Kelce? Those guys usually just say, hey, it's their money, their business, we're to stay out. But Travis Kelce even said, hey, big dog, we really need you badly. What's the latest on Jones?
We are just at a pretty big standoff right now. The comparison that I would make is Cam Chancellor. You remember a few years back with the Seattle Seahawks, he wanted a new deal, didn't play early in the season, eventually showed up weeks 2, week 3 of the NFL season. That's what I think we're talking about. I mean, the meter is running. He's already missed $2 million in fines. That's not counting the $500,000 workout bonus that he's passed up. We're talking about some serious coin, and then you're going to be docked $1.1 million for every regular season game that you miss. I mean, at some point, you either cave to what the Chiefs have made you an offer, or you come back to work and you try to roll the dice in free agency next offseason. I was on his side at the very beginning of this. I'm always going to be pro-worker. I'm always going to be trying to get as much money out of the company as you can, but you got to know your leverage. You got to know your position. And at this point, I'm just not really sure what cards Chris Jones has left. We talked about it to kind of kick this thing off. If you were on the side of Chris Jones, you were betting on the Chiefs getting off to a slow start. You're betting on them starting 1-3 and there being a huge push for, hey, we need Chris. Hey, we need Chris. Hey, we need Chris. I just don't think that's how it's going to turn out. So if we're talking about you showing up week 3 anyway without a new deal and you've lost $5 million in the process, what was gained by all of this? If I was him, I would show up today, who obviously aren't going to play, but I at least get myself on the books. I start going to practice next week for the team, and I try to play week 2 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's what I would do. But I would have handled this entirely. I would have handled this thing entirely different than we've seen him handle it.
Okay, so we'll go worst case scenario, and for what it's worth, I don't think this is going to play out. But let's, for argument's sake, say that, man, it's just he's stubborn, they're stubborn, it ain't going to happen. Can the Kansas City Chiefs go back and win another title without Chris Jones on the defensive side of the ball?
I mean, I don't think so. I just think that the AFC has gotten to a point where it's much tougher and much more fierce. That you think about how many good quarterbacks there are in the AFC and how many good quarterbacks we think are going to miss it. And we all know, like, your margin of error is just razor thin in all of this. So I would say no, they can't win the Super Bowl without him. And that's why I think the Chiefs just aren't going to trade him. Like, if you want to go worst case scenario, the Chiefs kind of throw their hands up. It's week 6. The deadline is approaching, and they just try to get what they can out of Chris Jones, and they simply move on. Best case scenario is he comes back in the next 10 days, and he's ready to play week 2, week 3 of the NFL season. I am very much against the idea of trading him for what we talked about. I don't think you can win the Super Bowl without him, but I've been wrong about this thing the entire time.
All right, what do you? I've got to get your thoughts because on the Browns, because this is something you and I have had many conversations, whether it be Baker Mayfield era, last year. Now they've got Deshaun Watson, and one of the things that I've told fans and listeners out there is that, look, the days of the Browns kind of being like everybody's darling. We're kind of rooting for the Browns, the long lost losers, and they've had some bad years, and good for them. That's kind of gone. One, because you've had a lot of expectations and haven't risen to meet them, and then, of course, fair or unfair, Deshaun Watson gets signed at $230 million guaranteed, and it's not going to go over well with some. So the idea nationally of people kind of cheering the Browns on, and that's tough for some fan bases to take, including this one. I'm curious, your objective view out there in Kansas City as far as the Browns and the AFC North.
I think everything that you're talking about now applies to the Lions. Like, I think people feel that way about Detroit, especially given they were on Hard Knocks last year. They won 9 games last season. You remember that big Sunday Night Football win, that Jamal Williams interview on Lambeau Field. Like, I think they've put all that energy into the Lions this year. I'm with you on Deshaun Watson. There will never be a scenario in which I want him to have success. There's never a scenario in which I will want Deshaun Watson to be happy. Aside from that, I think we all need to figure out what version of Deshaun Watson is real. Back in 2020, he was one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the National Football League. We talked about him in the Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. We talked about him like that. It's funny because a few weeks back, whenever they had that preseason game against the Eagles, I pointed out how quickly time moves in the NFL. Like, think back to 2020. Jalen Hurts was just starting in the National Football League, and Jalen Hurts had serious questions around him, and Deshaun Watson was an undeniable top 5 quarterback in the league. Fast forward just 3 years. Jalen Hurts is one of the faces in the league, just got a top 5 contract, and now we're asking questions about Deshaun Watson. So which version is real? I don't have to tell you. Deshaun Watson was bad last year when he started. He completed less than 60% of his passes, 7 touchdown passes, and 5 interceptions. I know people who think that Jacoby Brissett was the best quarterback that they had last season. So in the very same vein that I don't know how anybody can tell you what the Dolphins are going to be because we don't know what Tua is, I feel like Cleveland is in that exact same vein. Could Deshaun Watson be what he was in 2020 and the Browns win 11 games? Absolutely. Could it be completely over for Deshaun Watson? He throws 21 touchdown passes, 13 interceptions, and the Browns win 7 games this year. Anything is possible with him.
One of the best in the business, one of my favorite guys to talk to, Carrington Harrison. Follow him on Twitter if you are not already at C.Harrison, host of The Drive 610 Sports Radio in Kansas City as the Chiefs get set for the Lions tomorrow night. All right, before I let you go, I got to say this. You threw out a first pitch. Was this yesterday that you threw out a first pitch?
I actually threw it out last week, but they finally just gave me the video back. This is what I thought, because I know the video is not super impressive.
It's a strike, though.
Nobody ever remembers great first pitches. Nobody remembers them. It's like, oh, you should have threw it harder. Nobody remembers if you go up there and throw it 70 miles an hour. No one ever pays attention to that. They don't put it on SportsCenter. They only remember if you mess up. So all I wanted to do was go up there and throw it straight. I wasn't trying to put any sauce on it. I wasn't trying to put any heat on it. I just simply wanted to throw a strike, and I wanted to do it from the mound. I didn't want to do it from the rubber. That's their office. That's not my office. I stood on the mound. I threw it straight. I threw a strike. I'm happy.
You did. If this is the box that we all have gotten used to seeing, for good or bad, for better or for worse, the box that we always see on the screen for balls and strikes, that's definitely, even Angel Hernandez has to call that a strike. It was a strike. Now, again, I kind of agree with that philosophy. I think if I didn't try to throw it a little bit hard, that I fear that I would mess it up even more. But great approach, confident in the approach, and you fired a strike. I mean, that's just, I don't know if it's George Bush, 2001, but it's close, C-Dot. It's close. Thank you.
Well, you got to remember, George Bush was like doing this for the country. Like, we needed a sign of strength in that moment. That's not what anybody was asking for me. If I had gone up there with that kind of pressure, hey, I got to show that I'm the man. I wasn't trying to do that. I threw this pitch in front of 9,000 people. All I was trying to do was not be on SportsCenter. Again, they don't put great first pitches on SportsCenter. You can't remember one great first pitch you've ever seen, but you remember Travis Kelce's first pitch. You remember 50 Cent's first pitch. You remember Mariah Carey's first pitch. I don't ever want anybody to talk about my first pitch ever again because I threw a strike. That's all I wanted to do.
C-Dot, you might think that I or others are not looking to you as a pillar of strength or a strength in some tough times. But I am. And I'm motivated now. I'm motivated, and the pillar of strength, he is also the voice of The Drive on 610 in Kansas City. Always a pleasure, my friend. Have fun this season, and we'll talk to you soon.
Chico, I got to tell you before I get out of here, Dennis Gates might give Missouri a top 10 recruiting class. I don't want to say it just yet. It's certainly a possibility. They got a couple of things cooking up, but they're knocking on the door of a top 10 recruiting class. I'll always remember, you were the one that told me to believe in Dennis Gates. I was a little skeptical. I never heard of him before. There were some other coaches that I want, but you told me not to worry. Dennis Gates was going to work, and then look at it. So far, it's working great.
You got to tell him hello for me, by the way.
I will.
All right, C-Dot, thanks a lot, buddy. Appreciate the time. We'll do it again soon.
I appreciate you guys. Thanks a bunch.
All right, that is Carrington Harrison, 6'10". I'm looking at this Bohm, like I just reposted it. No, he doesn't put a lot of sauce on it, okay? But and it's not really, he didn't really get, his full body into it. But at the end of the day, he's right. I think that's probably the approach that you have to take, is that, well, I think everybody's approach on first pitches is the same. Are you thinking that you want to throw a strike? Because I think what goes through your head is just don't screw it up. Just don't screw it up. Just don't screw it up. And oftentimes, like, that's what you do because that's what's in your mind.
Chico, I think it depends on the amount of baseball experience. And this might be a good question for Booney. Like, if he's throwing out a first pitch, is he going to try to put a little sauce on it? Because I feel like someone like that who's been making these routine throws for their whole life, like, just putting a little something on it ain't no big thing.
Right. Yeah, see, and that's just it. Like, I'm glad you brought that point up. And we're going to get to Booney here in about 10 minutes. But For me, I think if I just tried to lob it in there, I couldn't. And it's not a matter of like, oh well, I'm trying. I would completely. I don't know where it would be going. Like my biggest concern would be my release point. You know, like, and Carrington releases it way up here. For those that can see, he's way up here with the release point, and doesn't really. He just kind of lobs it in there. But I mean, it comes in maybe about 38 miles an hour. It's a little eephus pitch, but it landed in the box.
To be honest, that's the approach that I would have to take because I had a shoulder injury, so I can't put really much oomph on my throws.
Recently, or
it was a few years ago. My dog dislocated my shoulder.
Boom, could you? I can't. I mean, I was going to step aside before Booney, but I can't do that. As you tell me that your dog tell us the story. How did your dog
I think it was the accumulation of all the times that she kept taking off after squirrels, and I would just let her like yank at me. And one day she took off after a squirrel that was going up a tree, and my shoulder came out with it. So, yeah, the crazy. So it was. I barely remember like the walk back home, but I do remember I was going to be driven to the hospital, right? And when I closed the car door, it like knocked it back in place.
I was just going to say, did you pop it back in or
total accident? But yeah.
And did you have to go to? Did you still go to the? Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, because I didn't know how severe it was, what kind of treatment or anything. I'd never experienced anything like this before.
Did the dog feel like? Did the dog know right away that you were hurt? Because they have that sixth sense.
I remember like we weren't too far from home, and she like walked back with me, and I remember like she was dragging her leash and I wasn't holding it.
Oh, you didn't even switch arms. You just dropped it.
I don't know. I was like in a daze, like what the heck just happened? Like it's all kind of blurry.
Wow. So it was that painful. Wow. You really.
It was the first time I'd ever experienced anything like that. So it was kind of like a shock.
But she was really probably still worried about the squirrel. She could care. I mean, in the initial, time frame, she's probably like, where the hell is that squirrel? Oh, sorry about your shoulder. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
On to the next squirrel.
All right. Well, there you go, kids. I mean, we just got, I had not, if you did tell me the story, I forgot it, but I'm glad that you brought it up again. Bohm has a chronic shoulder injury due to walking the dog. Now, I can see where that would happen. It's not that outlandish.
Also, my dog is a pit bull. Big, strong dog.
Love pit bulls.
Oh, they're incredible.
They get such a bad rap.
They do.
It's and I'm not okay. I'm going on a tangent now, but that's all right. Pit bulls, to me, they're like any dog. If you train a dog the right way, whether it's a freaking pit bull, cocker spaniel, shih tzu, poodle, mutt, they're gonna be. Now, I know certain dogs are certain types, and they have. Yes, I mean, they're strong. They have some of the strongest jaws, and when they latch on. But some of the kindest, most gentlest, most, I would say, loving dogs are pit bulls.
Absolutely.
I house sat last year for a pit bull. There is no dog that wants to cuddle more than that dog. Like to the point where they burrow in. You know this because you got a pit bull. Yeah. They burrow in. It's part of their DNA, I guess. But they can't get close enough to you.
Yeah, mine is the biggest sweetheart. Yeah. And she's a very good dog.
And she wants to let you know that she does still feel bad about your shoulder, Bohm. We just got word.
Appreciate that, Cinnamon.
Cinnamon? I like Cinnamon, you hurt my shoulder. Gosh darn you. All right, we'll take a break. We come back. Brett Boone, host of the Brett Boone podcast, former all-star second baseman. What would be Booney's advice to me? I have never thrown out a first pitch. Fanboy Nick has. Reflog has. Those guys are superstars. It was either throwing out the first pitch or standing on the dugout to sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" when I was in Erie, and I chose that. I didn't want to do the first pitch because I was honestly too nervous about it.
I would totally try it. I want a few warm-up throws.
I can't
throw well anymore.
I would want to know what Booney's advice would be to someone throwing out a first pitch. And then we also want to know what he thinks would make a good manager, because it appears that Guardians might be in the market for one after this season. All right, we'll take
maybe they should hire Brett. They have both Boone Bros back in the league.
We'll toss that. Well, we think Aaron's going to be back. They're angry in New York. I don't think it's his fault entirely. He's part of the problem. You're not a manager and not part of the problem. I think the majority of it falls in Brian Cashman's lap. That's just my opinion. And I'm not saying that just because of Booney. He knows that. We'll throw maybe Booney comes in. He knocks it out of the park with his interview. And then they're like, we really think you and Chico could be an incredible tandem. You will get the job if and only if you bring Chico along with you as your bench coach.
We'll spread the Booney propaganda from here.
You will have never seen season ticket holders and numbers plummet so fiercely as they would if it was announced that I was the bench coach.
That would be something. That's like a publicity stunt.
That would be, publicity stunt to say the least. But Booney, who knows? We
plausible.
Hey, what do you know? Hey, oh! All right, we'll take a break. Back with more Brett Boone next on the Chico Bormann Show, right here on the Big Play Sports Network. All righty, welcome back. It is the Chico Bormann Show here on this gorgeous, gorgeous, little overcast, little hot, little humid. They're saying some rain's going to move in and cool things off, but nonetheless, a great day here in Northeast Ohio. Good to have you along on the Chico Bormann Show. You can follow us, stream us live on Twitter, Monday through Friday, 11 to 1, right here on at Chico Show CLE, also on YouTube. And wherever you get your podcasts. Speaking of podcasts, this guy has a rather good one. a wide variety of guests because he's, well, a wide variety kind of guy. He's a former all-star second baseman. Some just simply know him as a former pro player. He's Brett Boone, who joins us.
Never gets old, Chico.
It doesn't.
Never gets old.
Please tell Dan that is the gift that keeps on giving because I absolutely love it. How you doing, Booney?
I'm doing good. What's going on?
Golf game? You still do you still have the Jones, or is it wearing off? Or you still like?
I had a breakthrough, and I'm really excited about it. I took my 8th putter to the golf course the other day in the last probably 2 months. 8, and it finally dawned on me that maybe it's not the putter.
Oh, it's always the putter, Booney. That's just it.
Yeah, maybe it's not the putter. I went with there's a guy I played with, really good player, really unorthodox putting style. Drops his back foot, weight on the front foot, completely the opposite of how I putt. I putted the other day. I rolled it well. There's hope.
I know where this is going. See, this is I love this. When it's particularly great is when you see somebody like me, who's a weekend hacker, plus 20 over handicap, and all of a sudden they see like Chris DeMarco with that little claw grip, and you see the average, and they're convinced that's. But I mean, a lot of with putting, a lot of it is just you see it go in the hole. And okay, well that's got to be it. And as long as you believe it,
it's mental. I used to look at people. Okay, let me disclose.
I love this.
I've always been a pretty good putter. You come away with a round with me, and you'll say, "Hey, Booney can putt a little bit." Now, I've never been lights out. I've never been money. I've never been that guy that just
you're so money you didn't even know it.
Right. I've never been that guy. Wow, he can putt. Never that guy. But never that guy either, like he struggles with his putting. No, I'm always good. Always 2-putt. Make the ones I'm supposed to make. I roll in a few putts here and there. But I've went from that guy to lately just shivering over the ball. Like an absolute non-athlete. And I used to laugh at people that get the yips. And, how can you get the yips? Just stand over the ball and knock it in the hole. I know what those guys go through.
So wait a minute. So now wait. If I have this right, so you had the breakthrough a couple weeks ago, which I happened to like. I just noticed that the swing had better tempo. You were playing more.
Swing, right? The swing is. I'm working on a swing thing right now,
right,
and it's getting better.
So the swing is also, but now you found it on the green, so you've got to be playing like nonstop. I mean, you got to be.
I found it on the green, but this last time, 2 times ago, I was a train wreck. I think I 3-putted 6 times. Was it yesterday? The day before yesterday. I rolled it a lot. Like I get on the green and go, all right, I got a chance to make this putt. I always have felt like that. I can make this putt. Or, I've got a 40-footer. Well, I'm going to definitely 2-putt. And for lately, I've been 12 feet if the greens are a little slick going, man, I hope I 2-putt this. I've never had that feeling before. So it's slowly coming together. I've got forces interacting, worlds interacting, worlds colliding, but eventually I'm going to get it right.
You sound like Bohm.
Right in this. I'm going to get it right in the amateur world of hack golfers. I'm going to get it right.
Yeah.
Bohm, how you doing?
I'm good, Booney. Good to be with you again.
All right. Well, it seems like this relationship's one-sided. I've always got to call you out. You never welcome me to the program.
Well, I'm sorry. I thought I was the host. My bad, Booney.
You're the host, but you're the obvious in the room. Bohm, once in a while. Booney, what's up?
Bohm's a rock star.
How you doing?
I'm the wild card.
Yeah, he's a rock star. He gets, believe me, he goes on the road, and I mean, I don't care about what you hear about baseball groupies. His groupies, it's unbelievable. All right, Booney. This has not been pretty here in Cleveland lately. Now, let me just set the stage. They're getting ready to play the Minnesota Twins this weekend, and everybody's kind of, or this past series, it started the other 2 days ago, and before game one and after they acquired Lucas Giolito and Matt Moore, and not that these were great names, but people are saying, you know what? Maybe they find some kind of good luck with Giolito, and they're able to watch the young guys' arms, guys like Tanner Bybee, and hey, they're 5 back of Minnesota. Who knows? This would be very Tito-like if it is his final season for the team to get hot. And then all of a sudden, the last 2 games, they lost 20-6. They lost, and that's not a misspeak on my part. That 20-6, another grand slam for Royce Lewis, who just seems to be always knocking him out with the bases loaded, and then lost 8-3 yesterday. Tanner Bybee, who has been unbelievable this year and should be in the running for Rookie of the Year, in my opinion, almost broke down in his press conference. Like, he was, because somebody asked him about, did you guys feel like this was your opportunity to make some hay? And you could tell the kid's just wearing the heart on his sleeve. Like, he wants it. He wants to catch these guys. Is there a point where guys just kind of, I don't want to say check out, because that's not this culture in Cleveland, but it's just, how do you explain 20-6 and 8-3?
Well, that's just bad timing. Bad time when you're playing the head-to-head matchup that when you're in this position, you're in second place. You've kind of been running in second place all year. All you can ask for is just give me that head-to-head matchup so I can control my own destiny. Well, they're getting it. And you see what happened the last 2 days. They got about a week ago, they won 2 in a row, and they got to 5. And I thought, okay, there's a time and a point in every season where you've got to kind of make a run. You've got to have that where they're talking about you. Wow, they just rattled off 10 of 15. They just rattled off 8 of 10. You've got to have that run. And it just seems like we've been waiting for it in Cleveland. Seattle got that run right after the All-Star break. Now they've been struggling as of late. They got that run. Texas was hot all year. All of a sudden they drop 8 in a row, and they've been leading the division handily throughout the year. Now they find themselves in 3rd place in the West. Now that's apples and oranges compared to what Cleveland's been going through in the Central, but they've just kind of been sitting in that 2nd place position all year, and we've been waiting for them. When's it going to happen for the Guardians? They've had some guys in and out of the lineup. Obviously, months ago, Bieber goes down, their big guy in the pen. McKenzie hasn't been there all year. But these young guys, Allen, Bybee, and Williams have really, if nothing else, it gives Cleveland fans some hope for the future with this young nucleus. I think that's great. You get Giolito. It was a little surprising to me. Angels put a bunch of people on waivers.
Yeah.
And I wasn't surprised that Giolito got picked up, but I was surprised that Giolito got picked up by the Cleveland. Sorry,
That's
did
okay.
it again.
I say it all the time.
The Guardians, the mighty, mighty Guardians. I was surprised.
The mighty Guardians. Sorry, I got to plug in my computer.
I was surprised that Cleveland was the team that claimed Giolito. So, I don't know. Giolito to me, oh man, how do I put this?
He's not good.
No, it's not that he's not good. He's a very talented guy. And 2-3 years ago, there were people calling for him as a major Cy Young award.
Oh, he was highly
candidate.
touted. Yeah.
And it's just like one of those guys that you hang your hat on, and you just wait for that time, and it never comes to fruition. I look at a guy for me in New York, Severino.
Yep.
Who, for years, I've been going, man, just get this guy healthy and let him do what he can do, and he can win us. He's disappointed this year for the Yankees. So there's those guys that you always hang your hat on, your weight, and sometimes it happens, and sometimes it doesn't. It seems like Giolito, like the Chicago White Sox, for me, have been a major disappointment.
Oh.
I did a show the other day talking about that White Sox organization, and I said for the last 3 years, for whatever reason, they've been the biggest disappointment in baseball. I thought 3 years ago, watching the White Sox team, that was going to be kind of a team that makes a run, and they're going to be at the top of that division for 5, 6, 7 years. Well, we know that hasn't panned out. So I don't know. This Cleveland team, I've been hanging with them. I'm looking at, we've been dissecting this every week, Chico, this Cleveland Central Division, the weakest division in baseball. and just thinking the Twins aren't that good that Cleveland can't overcome them. But Cleveland, even to this day, and now it's the 6th of September, we're getting late. They still haven't made a move. So it tells me, as somebody that watches this game on a daily basis, I know those players, they're not giving up.
Yeah.
Those players still think they have a chance. We always do. Until it gets to a point where it's pretty darn obvious and the writing's on the wall. But 7 games out right now, they're thinking, oh, we can still go on that run. I know what it's like as a player. You got to believe. You got to have a reason to get up, come to the ballpark every day. But at this stage of the season, man, it's pretty, from my viewpoint, pretty grim for the Guardians. I don't think it's in the cards this year that they're going to make that run.
And I think, and everything you said there, Booney, is dead on. I think it's one of those, too, and it's not an excuse, but when your entire rotation, and that's not hyperbole, when your entire rotation is gone. Now, they traded Aaron Savali, but the rest of them, we're talking Bieber, we're talking McKenzie, we're talking, Plesac. My gosh, seems like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Gone. And then you lose Naylor for a significant chunk, and you only have so many guys to drive in runs in the lineup to begin with. Sometimes the stars just don't align. What sucks about it even more, I think, for folks here, and for myself, I'll say it, is that this might very well be the swan song for Terry Francona, and he's done so much for this city and this organization. You want to see him go out. But, hey, that – it happens. It happens. Let me. This is where I want to go with you. If this is indeed Tito's last season, and he hasn't really kind of shied around it. I mean, he's basically said, I just don't think I can do it health-wise and all that. You loved playing for Lou Piniella. We've had discussions with you where you loved Lou, and to this day you still love Lou Piniella. What makes a good manager? And I know everybody's built differently and made up differently, but what do you think is universal for players that say, yeah, that is one characteristic that you better have if you're going to be a great manager?
Well, I don't think it's one thing. I think it's a lot of things. And yeah, Lou is, it's pretty documented with me. He's my favorite. But I got to play for a lot of great managers, and I enjoyed playing for a lot of guys. Bruce Bochy's another one that it was a pleasure to play for Bruce. He was a professional. He was a guy's guy. He kind of hung with the players more than any manager I've ever been around. Bruce Bochy, I'm referring to.
You played for Bobby Cox too, didn't you? With Atlanta?
I played for Bobby. Yeah, I played for Bobby Cox.
Wow.
I played for Davey Johnson. I played for Jack McKeon. I played for Hargrove. I played for a young rookie, Bob Melvin. So I played for a lot of different guys. A lot of different, and pretty much enjoyed playing for the majority of them, to be honest with you. Okay, what makes a great manager? Lou is different. Everybody can't play for Lou. Lou's got to respect you as a man and as a player. If he gets that out of you, that man will take a bullet for you. Bruce Bochy was a guy's guy. You liked him. He's got a way about him. He's the big teddy bear. You never heard a negative word about Bruce Bochy from anybody. Easy to play for, treated you, if you're a veteran, he treated you with a lot of respect. Davey Johnson was a button pusher. He was very, very away from, he disconnected from the players on a personal level. But to this day, if I've got to chalk everybody up, I played for Bobby Cox, Hall of Fame manager. But if I've got to pick one that the X's and O's and was the best manager I played for, it's probably Davey Johnson. Doesn't mean he's my favorite. And me and Davey, I've had Davey on my show, and we butted heads quite a bit. But I understood what he was doing. Okay, the greatest managers relate with the players. They know how to get their people. They're people. They read people. They're CEOs of companies. They know their personnel. Those 26 guys in the clubhouse. They know their personalities. They know the egos. They know how to interact with each individual to get the best out of that individual. Those are the greatest managers I've seen. Little things that players appreciate that to the fans seem silly and tedious. Simple things like if you're an everyday player, you come to the ballpark and you don't have to check the lineup. You're in the lineup because you play every day. And on days you're not in the lineup, that manager comes to you the night before and kind of tells you, you got a day off tomorrow. Now, that doesn't mean you like it as a player, but you have the night to sleep on it, get through it. You come to the ballpark with a good attitude. There's nothing worse than coming to the ballpark as a regular player. And I had one manager that did this, checking the lineup and you're not in there. And it's like, can you kind of tell me? That's a huge pet peeve that across the board, I've talked to players through the years. That's the one thing that sticks in their craw. And on the flip side, and especially when you have a little time in and you're an established player, the extra players, the players that don't play every day, that maybe only play once, especially with the DH now, maybe once or maybe twice a week, letting those guys know a couple days in advance, hey, so-and-so, we've got a lefty coming up in 2 days from now, and be ready. That puts him on alert. For those extra players, they prepare. They're extra players for a reason. That's kind of a niche profession that, man, I don't know how they did it. It's hard enough when you're in there every day to be there just once in a while, and maybe sometimes 4, 5, 6 days in between starts. The extra players, the utility players on a ball club that could play an intricate role in a lot of teams and winning, to give them advance notice and let them prepare, because they're a different animal, those extra players. I remember playing with a guy named Thomas Howard, Jerome Walton, and Lenny Harris. Lenny Harris ended up retiring with the most pinch hits in the history of baseball.
Yep.
And I had them, and we had a couple teams, 94 and 95 in Cincinnati. We were really good. 94 got disrupted, like a lot of teams, by the strike, and we didn't get to find out, but we were wire to wire first place. Same thing in 95. And then we ran into a buzzsaw with the Atlanta Braves of 1995 and whooped us in Atlanta. But we were good, and we had those 3 guys on our bench, and they were veteran players. They knew their role, and they used to call themselves the stunt squad. And Lenny, every day Lenny would come to me, Booney, let me get a start. I need to get a start at second base. Give me a start. Just one, man. You play every day. I remember I got hurt one time and I was out for 3 or 4 days, and Lenny had to play second base 3 or 4 days. He comes up to me after the 3rd day. He goes, Booney, they don't pay me to do this. I'll get exposed. That's why I'm on the bench, and that's why I just come in and pick my spots. So, but those guys are so important, and to give them the respect of Lenny Harris and say, Lenny, we got this tough righty on Thursday in LA. This could be a Tuesday evening. Say, just be ready. I think you're going to be in there. Now, Lenny's already got his wheels rolling. He's ready every day to pinch hit, but he's got to prepare himself for a start, because that's not what his role is. So those are the best managers, the guys that inform you. I think the most successful managers too, they have a barrier in between themselves and the players on a personal level. I think you need to separate a little bit and not be too hands-on. The hands-on is for the bench coach to go around the clubhouse, kind of get the pulse of the clubhouse, see how everybody's feeling, just kind of take the temperature. And then kind of he is the liaison to that manager. Hey, Jones is feeling good today. Smith, he's banged up a little bit, Skip, but he's going to be all right. He's good to go. I talked to him. Just that go-between. I think the great managers have it, because you can't get too close and too far. You're the guy as a manager, man, you have so many hats that you wear. You've got to release players. You're calling players up. You're sending players down. You're telling guys they're traded. So it's tough to get too personal, too in the players' lives. You still have to have that barrier where I'm the skipper, and that's a different realm, and then there's the players. And I find the guys that can't really separate that have a tough time once they become managers. They were great bench coaches and everybody loved them, but they became the skipper and they didn't know how to separate that, because there's too much that goes on throughout the course of 162. So in a nutshell, I know that's the longest winded story possible.
We love those though, Booney.
But it's the guys that really read players. And I probably overuse this in my analysis of managers, but it's the manager that knows to give that guy a hug and kick that guy in the butt to get the same result. Those are the best managers in the game.
All right, let me real quick, looking around the league here, two big things. We haven't talked about it, and it's significant for the respective teams, but it's delicate subjects. But Wander Franco, I don't know what his future is going to be with Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
But, that's a very good team. And now the Dodgers with Julio Urias with the domestic violence. I mean, are those two guys like deal breakers when it comes to even if you didn't have Tampa Bay winning it all or the Dodgers winning it all, because I know you like the Braves. Those are two very significant pieces, and you're not just losing them to injury, Booney. It feels like it's even more than that.
It could be a huge distraction.
Yeah.
Well, these are two teams. First of all, Tampa Bay we've covered. No rhyme or reason. Each and every year, we just put them on the postseason roster because what they do down in Tampa is unicorn-like. They do it. The turnover year after year. They're doing it again this season. One of the best records in baseball, and have been through a lot, losing their number one in McClanahan. He went down, but Glasnow's back. The Wander Franco thing. These teams seem to be the Dodgers as well. They seem to be resilient. And whatever culture they have on that leadership down there, they don't miss a beat. Yeah, one of our best players, Wander Franco, he's under investigation for multiple things. And I like to preface it with this. I saw the Trevor Bauer thing play out. He got exonerated on all charges, but he got drugged through the mud. I'm not saying I know the facts, I know anything about it, but let's be really clear that these guys are innocent till proven guilty. There's a lot of things that get slung around in today's society. Doesn't look pretty. Believe me, it doesn't look pretty. And your Urias has had this is not his first time, it's the second time. So, but I want to be the last guy on earth that jumps to conclusions and drags their name through the mud because I don't know anything.
Sure.
Let's just get back to the team. All right, go ahead.
Let me just say this about Bauer, though. The one thing, because this does relate, forget about what did or didn't happen or what was said, what wasn't said. As it played in the clubhouse, like his teammates, that was where like his team, I don't want to say turned on him. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, Booney, but usually it's, hey, we've got your back. And they basically wanted nothing to do with him, which I thought was kind of, I don't want to say surprising, but usually they'll have a different viewpoint. They didn't with Bauer in that case.
I think Bauer's was kind of at that stage of his career was kind of and you saw it in Cleveland. He was a polarizing personality. So I don't know how that plays out on individual teams. I know as a player, and now, I've played a long time in the big leagues, and now I've been retired for a good amount of time. So as we get older, we start to think about things different than when I was a young player. Who knows what I would have felt like if a teammate had been exposed. Now I'm going to know that teammate a little more intimate. I'm going to probably have a little more information than the general public does and the media does on his behavior, his personality. Oh yeah, that sounds like something he would do, or no, that doesn't. I think he's getting smeared here. So you're going to have a little more intel as a player. What I've found with both these teams, they're incredibly resilient. I look at the Dodgers and what they've done this year. They're leading the division by 14 games. And they've been under the radar. They've been the great Dodgers, just like Houston in the American League. This Dodgers have been on about a 6 or 7 year run where they're pretty darn good. It seems like they're going to the World Series an awful lot. Now, this last offseason, they made huge changes. The Turner goes to Boston. The other Turner goes to Philly. They lost a lot of that star power that they have. Now, they still have Freeman and Mookie Betts having MVP-type seasons. But I look at it. Now you got Urias. Now you've got this scandal with Urias, their top guy, and somebody they need to lean on if they're going to go deep into that postseason. Kershaw's been the constant. Yeah, he gets dinged up here and there. But look at Gonsolin's out. Syndergaard, where's Syndergaard? Gone. Now released from baseball. Grove hurt. May out, who's been trying to establish that he's going to be a dominant starter in this league for years. Seems like he can't stay healthy. You go out and you get Lance Lynn. He's doing pretty good since he's been in LA. Yarborough, a guy that was a starting pitcher for the Tampa Bay, and Walker Buehler. Is he going to come back? So the Dodgers, as resilient as they've been, this is a big one for me because Urias is a crux in that rotation. I think you kind of have to have him, and you got nobody that can replace that. So it's going to be interesting how that plays out. The Wander Franco thing, Tampa Bay seems to be doing fine. But it's one of their big guys, one of their star players. So definitely going to affect them. But I don't know. I think they're pretty resilient, and they're going to march on without these guys and do what they do. I don't see any one of those. Well, that's not necessarily true. Tampa Bay could be in the mix for me winning the American League. Dodgers, not so much. I don't know how they're doing it to this point. They haven't pitched particularly great. They've had a plethora of injuries. Their offense is really good. They're a powerful offense. But I don't know. We'll see. Both definite big distractions, but it starts at the top with a Kevin Cash and a Roberts on that leadership going forward to, hey, things happen throughout the course of a season. Very unfortunate. Definitely when you're talking domestic violence or something criminal, that's a little bigger distraction than an injury. But Roberts and Cash seem to righted the ship and keep this going in the right direction. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out on both those ball clubs.
So Jenny Finch was able to put you showing her up in that celebrity softball game aside and join you on the Brett Boone podcast. Who else is on tap?
Yeah, Jenny was out yesterday. We had interesting. The theme of the day, Chico, seems to be that I'm using the word polarizing quite a bit. So we got another polarizing one. Curt Schilling was yesterday. Really, really good. Little over an hour.
Did you talk politics? Because
he'll be out tomorrow. No.
Okay.
Okay. That's kind of part of Kurt's life. And he touched on it a little bit, but no, the base of the conversation was basically his 3 World Series pitching today. Think of what you want of Kurt. He's definitely a guy that has his naysayers and people that really like him. He's a smart baseball man. He's a high intellect baseball man. He knows the game inside and out. He knows the technical aspects of the game. He's fun to listen to when it comes to talking pitching. So he was a real interesting one. And so we got Jenny Finch yesterday, Schilling tomorrow, and then we've got Charlie Steiner and Sean McDonough next week. So we'll talk a little Boston. And I'm interested to talk to Charlie because he does the games for LA.
Yeah,
the Dodgers games. So it's going to be an interesting take on a guy that watches them day in and day out with the huge roster shift from a year ago to this year, but still same results.
What's
just
interesting
in that division.
Let me just get this in there. What's interesting about Steiner is people, for the most part, growing up when SportsCenter was huge, Steiner was a huge part of that. People don't realize what he's doing now as covering the Dodgers baseball. But like you think of some of the funniest SportsCenter moments and commercials, Charlie Steiner was in the Evander Holyfield, Steiner, come on out and get your whooping. Like Steiner was in all of the Pool Boy, the Melrose Place skit. Like Charlie, you have to ask him about the SportsCenter commercials because he was actually a huge fan favorite in that.
He was. Charlie was one of my favorite guys.
Yeah,
and we interacted a little bit in 2003. That Boston Yankees series where I was in the booth with Fox, all the media of the day, and Steiner at that time was with ESPN. We hooked up. We had dinner a night in New York, and I got to know Charlie away from the ESPN set and all the commercials and all that stuff. And ever since then, I've been a huge Charlie Steiner fan. So I'm looking forward to it.
Good stuff. He's the host of the Brett Boone podcast, former All-Star second baseman, joins us each and every Wednesday on the Chico Bormann Show. Booney, we appreciate it. We'll do it again next week. Thank you, pal.
Have a good week, guys, and we'll see you in a week.
Okay, sounds good, man. Thank you. That is Booney. As always, follow him and catch the podcast wherever you get your podcast. We'll take a quick break. We come back. Fair or foul? If Bohm's able to see it through, he seems like he's struggling. We'll get an update on Bohm.
It's hot in these studios again. Did you notice that?
Yeah,
I'm sweating again.
We went through a stretch where it was very comfortable. But, it has gotten a little warm. That's okay. My fat ass needs to lose a little weight. But you, on the other hand.
Well, I do too, so I guess that's.
All right, Fair Files coming your way next. The Chico Bormann Show as we wind it down on this Wednesday right here in the Big Play Sports Network. We are back. Final segment here on the Chico Bormann Show. And as always, you can stream us live. Please do so on Twitter, Monday through Friday, 11 to 1, at Chico Show CLE. Also on YouTube, available wherever you get your podcasts. We're going to be live radio version on iHeartRadio soon. So a ton of things. And, of course, Sunday, folks, do not forget, Sunday. Yeah, you know Browns-Bengals. That's important. Even more important than the 1 p.m. kickoff is getting ready for the 1 p.m. kickoff. And right here at Burke Lakefront Airport is where you want to be. Nick Padone, Hanford Dixon, Josh Cribbs, myself. Boom, I think you're going to be here.
I may make a cameo.
We're going to be doing a show from 10 a.m. until noon. But, folks, you're going to want to stop up. You're right across the street from the stadium. But we got food, we got fun, we got drinks, we got games, we got field goal kicking for prizes. We got all you could possibly want, including legends, former Browns legends, talking about it. It's going to be awesome. And it all starts this Sunday, 10 a.m., right here at Burke Lakefront Airport. Cannot wait.
And Chico, I have a confession. I've never actually tailgated at the Muni lot. I've been to my fair share of Ohio State tailgates in
Well,
the
you're
college
not
days.
that. Yeah, I mean, you're not old. I did quite a bit when I was.
No,
growing
but
up.
so I think that's why I'm especially looking forward to this experience, because I've never had that Muni lot experience, and I imagine it's gonna parallel that in many ways.
We're expecting good weather on Sunday.
Yeah, and we're gonna have a lot of activities, food. I mean, the live show is something that you're not gonna find in the Muni lot. And it's the place to be, Chico.
And you got it's not just obviously Josh representing this generation. Hanford was one of my favorites growing up, along with Bernie. So nobody's going to be able to touch that, folks. It's going to be a blast. Again,
you're going to hear Hanford's barks from across the lot.
I love it, and that's
no
the
one
guy.
does it better.
See, while we're talking about designs on the dog and what that's the guy that started it. That's why they call him Top Dog. Hanford Dixon will be there on Sunday as well. I in the words of Bart Scott, can't wait for Sunday at 10 a.m. All right, now it's time for a little fair or foul.
Well, in less exciting NFL news, if you're the Oakland Raiders.
Las Vegas Raiders. It's all right.
Apologies. I just read something earlier today about what Las Vegas was doing with Oakland, if you saw that tribute.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, it was it was pretty rude, but whatever, I digress on that. So maybe a little bit of karma coming back at him, because Raiders defensive lineman Chandler Jones has said that he does not want to play for the coach or GM of Las Vegas. He unfollowed the team. He unfollowed a teammate. Fair or foul, Chico, this is something that the Browns should be keeping an eye on.
Chandler Jones' availability?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Andrew Berry is always, certainly everybody, and anytime you can add to the pass rush, you want to do that. I think they're set in that regard. You can always say we can never have too many, and that's also true. What I find very interesting, so I'll say fair on that, even though I don't think it's going to be a keen eye out for him, but things are not, and it hasn't for a while. Remember the whole Mayock and Gruden experience, and now you got McDaniels, but Chandler Jones, it wasn't that long ago that he was he put out on his Twitter account, ready to practice, great to be here. That always makes me wonder, do guys handle their own? Because usually when you get to that level, some people handle your social media accounts. So was the same person that wrote, I'm great, I'm so glad to be here and so excited to start practice, the same guy that wrote, because he went scorched earth on the Raiders organization. McDaniels, GM, everybody, basically hates them all. Crazy situation. I'm glad that we're done with those drama. I remember that when that was the Browns.
And you remember how many people wanted Josh McDaniels here running the show? And look, I'll admit, I was enticed by it. Ohio kid.
How could you not be? Yeah.
Big time pedigree.
Yeah.
But time and time again, he has proven to run franchises into the ground. And you saw it with Denver.
Yeah,
and we're seeing it with Oakland,
Denver,
Las Vegas.
and then how he handled the Indianapolis thing. He hasn't come off very well. And Booney said it as a manager, coach. Whenever you're the CEO, you're the guy the players are looking to. You can know everything in the world. If you don't know how to relate and you don't know how to get your point across and motivate, it doesn't matter. I don't know. That's a crazy situation out there.
Well, Chico, you talk about what it takes to make great coaches. I think that's a great transition into my next topic, because I want to. We talked a little bit about that upset with Clemson, kind of getting blown out of the water by Duke. Pretty surprising if you ask me, but I guess I'm curious how much we should buy into the footage that surfaced of Cade Klubnik, quarterback for Clemson, giving his head coach Dabo Swinney the cold shoulder when he wants to give him a high five, and they literally bump hands, right? But they don't high five. Now it's possible that Klubnik was not actually just didn't see it, right? Fair or foul, you buying into some frustrations from Klubnik towards his head coach?
Okay, I'm going to say it's a great question. I'm going to say foul until I hear more. Do I think he was frustrated? Yes. If he did that purposely, then, probably not a good look. Here's the bigger story with Clemson. Boom, and you and I were talking about this a little bit yesterday, but I think it merits a little more elaboration, and that is what's the big story from the weekend? Colorado, right? And Deion Sanders and the transfer portal. And I said on yesterday's show, like, man, the transfer portal is so important that you're going to have recruiting rankings from high school and transfer portal rankings. Texas State beat Baylor. They had the third most action in the transfer portal. Guess who? Guess who is opposed, like adamantly opposed to going into the transfer portal unless he absolutely has to? The guy that you're talking about, Dabo Swinney. Now, in some ways, it's admirable, right? Like, but if you think that when you lose to Duke, that Clemson fans and probably some administration aren't saying to themselves, okay, Dabo, you're a hell of a coach. You've done great things for us, but you got to get with the times. And if you're not going to be like, I don't doubt for a second that he hates the transfer portal, and most of those coaches do, but you either get with the times or you're going to be left behind. And that's where Dabo's at right now.
Adapt or die.
Yeah. I know that wasn't exactly your question. I don't think the quarterback's necessarily frustrated with Dabo. He's frustrated in general. But I think the bigger issue right now is the pressure's been mounting on Dabo Swinney, and the fact that he has openly said he's not a fan of the transfer portal when that has really been and was the theme from week 1 or last week in college football. We'll see further developments. We shall see what happens at Clemson.
Yeah, so their opponent from week 1, Duke. Funny little, I guess, side story happened after the game as quarterback Riley Leonard, who kind of put himself on the map with that performance. He had an assignment that was due at midnight. He said it was due at 12 on Monday. I'm not sure if it was midnight or noon, right? But he's seen on video asking his professor to extend the deadline. This is like, I want to say it's on the field. Not long after the win, he's still in uniform, right? Like, hey, can I just get a little extra time to finish my project? And the professor, he comes back and says, hey, Riley, great game last night, man. It was so exciting. Congratulations to you and all your teammates. But, Wesley Williams and the other linemen who were in the class, they said they prepared ahead and did it ahead of time. So why didn't the quarterback? And he did not grant him the deadline. Now, we talk about this all the time, Chico, with NIL and how we're expanding conferences, so you're going to have to travel more, and the burdens of having to complete assignments while dealing with all these expanded itineraries. So do you think this action by the Duke professor is fair or foul?
Okay, first of all, I got to get some... He's on the field in uniform. Is his professor on the field as well?
No, this is a video recorded later in response after that video of Duke's quarterback surfaced. And then Duke tweeted out the response from the professor saying, no, you can't get it extended.
Okay, I didn't see this at all, so I'm trying to get the background here. The game ends, they win. In the midst of the celebration, he grabs his phone and does a Zoom call.
Someone's filming him. It's like field interview.
Oh, okay. So that's when. Well, I mean, I'm going to say the answer should be fair. That, well, hey, you know what? Especially because he brought up other teammates. I could say foul easily and go, well, those linemen, when you're the quarterback and you're getting ready for Clemson, your plate's a little more full. But when you're at Duke, that's, it's a big deal. Now, do we think that it goes on, it's like that everywhere? Hell no. Because the quarterback doesn't even have to reach out in that situation. Somebody from the coaching staff reaches out to said professor and says, this is how it's going to be, and that's what they say, and that's what they do. I mean, we're naive if we think otherwise. But at Duke, it's a very higher institution of academic learning, and that professor is basically saying, your O-linemen, the big uglies, were able to meet the deadline. You will too, glory boy.
Oh, also, Chico, I totally forgot. I'd be remiss if we didn't mention this on the show. But it was reported by, shout out to Jeff Strudel for the scoop, Denzel Ward is practicing today.
Yes, we did need that.
Yeah,
yes.
So why don't we wrap fair or foul there and exciting Denzel Ward news.
You're the king of the transition, Bo.
I saw it during Booney, right? And I just I totally forgot.
I'm glad you brought it up, but no, that's huge. That's the only news really that I wanted to hear today coming out of Berea. Denzel Ward is practicing We assume that means that he's passed all of the tests until that gets confirmed. Well, but if he's practicing, I'm guessing that's what that means. And if he's available for Sunday against Cincinnati, that is huge, huge. We'll all sleep much better tonight, including Kevin Stefanski and Jim Schwartz and everybody. All right, so Denzel Ward out on the practice field. The Browns getting set to take on the Bengals on Sunday at 1 p.m. here at Burke Lakefront Airport. We're going to be partying like it's 2099. We're going to be getting you ready for the Browns and the Bengals beginning at 10 a.m. Myself, Nick Padone, Hanford Dixon, Josh Cribbs, and about 5,000 of your closest friends and maybe 25,000. I don't know. It's going to be a big party, so check out that. Tomorrow night, the season gets underway. We talked to Carrington Harrison out in Kansas City. Probably going to do it without Travis Kelce, but we'll see. Either way, the show must go on and will go on tomorrow night. That means fantasy football, and that means our buddy, Eric Casillas, with Stardom, Sit-em for your lineups. Because, yes, football is here, fantasy football is here, and you got to know, should I start him or should I sit him? EK from CBSSports.com and CBS Sports HQ with that fantasy football show and the gambling show over there. He's going to have all the intimate details you need, Bo. So
I needed him today, Chico. I got another draft tonight.
Really?
Yeah, my last draft of I'm in 2 leagues, so just any advice I could get. But
Is this another one you're going to have to do at work?
I actually got off of work for this one.
Attaboy.
Yeah.
Attaboy, Bohm. You got to have priorities in life, and that's
I know, right? This is my biggest money league.
good deal. I guarantee you're going to get Olave in this one because you want that Olave Garden name.
We'll see about that because this is all Ohio State alums. So there's a Buckeye bias there. You almost have to avoid Buckeyes because they're going early.
That's that. I don't know if you can do that. We'll see. Update tomorrow on that.
The temptation is real.
Thanks to Carrington Harrison out in Kansas City. Also, Brett Boone, as I said, tomorrow, Eric Casillas from Michael Bohm. All of us at Big Play Sports. I'm Chico Bormann. We'll do it again tomorrow at 11. Until then, make it a great rest of your Wednesday, everybody. See ya.